Welcome back to the Processing Blue podcast, where we process the Panthers for you. I'm Panthers beat reporter Mike Kaye. I'm joined by Alex Zietlow, and we have just completed the Charlotte area training camp sort of thing in Charlotte. I don't know, man. Training camp, all the days kind of mashed together. It feels like Groundhog's Day, but, it's just a different wide receiver making the play.
Right.
Alex, we don't need to talk about weather. We've done that already. We've checked that box. But I think a lot's happened, obviously, since we last spoke on the Processing Blue podcast, a wonderful podcast, which you should subscribe to if you're listening to it right now on any platform that you get your podcasts. The preseason game against the Browns, I think, is getting a little too much angst from the fan base, and we'll get into that a little bit soon. But I think we should start right off the bat with, what kind of came out of the Browns game, and that is that one of the two main competitions in the Panthers' sphere of starters is decided. The Panthers, Dave Canales announced on Monday that Austin Corbett, the veteran of the competition, will be the starting center moving forward. Cade Mays, who did a terrific job filling in last year during that final stretch, he will now be a backup. But wait, Damian Lewis is sidelined. Chandler Zavala is sidelined. Maybe there's an avenue for Cade Mays to be a starter still, at least in week one. Alex, it felt like this is where it was going, but given the timing of it, with the Houston Texans joint practices coming up, the Houston Texans preseason game coming up, do you think it was the right move to name the starter right now this week?
Not only do I think it was the right move, I think it was a calculated move. Given Damian Lewis's injury, given Chandler Zavala's dealing with a knee thing, I think Chandler Zavala's injury is probably a little bit more serious than Damian's, just based off of vibes that I got from Dave. And also, Damian has been struggling with, he had shoulder problems last year as well, or he essentially played through every single game. So I'm not concerned about Damian playing on week one. But it does seem calculated. One thing that I think is interesting through all of this is that when Cade Mays wasn't a known center before last season.
Neither was Austin Corbett.
Yeah, and they both kind of emerged as centers out of necessity for the Panthers, and because the Panthers liked them and knew how versatile they were and how athletic they were to play the center position that Dave Canales wanted to run. But now all of a sudden, we can't really be all that surprised that Cade is showing this versatility in the other guard spots, because that's kind of what he was bred to do. And then so that's kind of my feelings on that. One thing I want to pick your brain about, Mike, is Brady Christensen is known as a super versatile guy on the line. Has he just been siloed to the tackle spot? Like, is that kind of, because we all thought that once Austin Corbett went down, that Brady was going to take the center spot last year. And then a sliding doors moment happens. Dave takes Cade Mays to be the center next year. And then this center competition plays out this training camp, and then all these things happen. But why, I guess I'm posing this question to you. Why isn't Brady considered for that guard spot? Like, why is Cade just automatically assumed to get it?
Well, I think you kind of want to look at it a few different ways. So the way I interpret it is Brady is more valuable to this team as a sixth man, right? And there are a lot of offensive line coaches who would prefer not to switch up two positions to accommodate one. So what I mean by that is, let's say Robert Hunt goes down, and it's the normal line. So it's Ike Ekwonu, it's Damian Lewis, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt, Taylor Moton. Well, you don't want to then have Taylor Moton go down and then in the middle of the game go from Brady Christensen at right guard to Brady Christensen at right tackle, and then Cade Mays comes in. Does that make sense? So you want to be able to kind of like have your deck stacked in a way that it kind of makes sense. Most teams have 7 or 8 guys active on the offensive line for a game, so you need that versatility. I think having two versatile pieces such as Brady and Cade gives you a lot of options. You know that Cade can play all three interior spots and right tackle. I've seen him do it. He played some tackle in college. Brady Christensen, we know, can play every position on the field. To me, his best spot would be right tackle, but right now they have him as basically the backup left, and I thought he kind of was pretty shoddy in that preseason.
You think he's the best at the right tackle spot? Because I thought he played really well in the interior line when given the opportunity last year.
So when he played left guard from 2022 to 2023, he only played one game in 2020. I thought he was easily the weakest link of the starting group.
Oh.
I think he is so athletic and so good in space that I'd want to play him at tackle. He is short-armed for a tackle traditionally, but I think if you're going to use him at right tackle, you're typically going up against stronger linemen, so he can put brawn on brawn as opposed to worry about like the weak side where somebody like Princely Uman-Milan would come and out athletic. So I think, Dave Canales says length, is forgiving, right? So you want to kind of get that matchup properly. You know what I mean? And so I think, look, when you have two versatile pieces coming off the bench, that's really important. And we're going to get into a bigger discussion about that a little bit later. We're also going to talk about the joint practices with the Texans, with Houston Chronicle writer and my predecessor, Jonathan Alexander.
Ooh.
We're going to talk to him about the just how good the Houston Texans defense is under DeMeco Ryans and how much of a threat it will be to the newly established starting offensive line that is also missing Damian Lewis. What I think you were 100% on the ball about it being strategic. I asked Dave Canales about this Saturday about Ja'Tyre Carter, who I put in my stock down column after the game. I talked to Carter after the game. He said that his play went uphill after the sack. I rewatched the game. I came away, whatever. He was fine. Like, I don't think he was terrible. Like, I don't think the sack was a complete indictment of his performance. It was a big sack to give up, and it was notable because he was the only guy filling in with the first team. And Canales was complimentary of him. He went out of his way to talk about him. But then we see Cade Mays entering the guard discussion, and I can't help but feel like get your best lineman on the thing. Like, Carter was a practice squad holdover. Cade Mays started, I think, 9 games for them last year, whether it was at center or whatever. He is clearly a higher NFL caliber talent. And I think, when you put Cade Mays into the starting lineup, like I said, there's a shift, right? So Brady Christensen still's that 6th man. That's terrific and everything. But God forbid you have 2 offensive linemen go down. Your next option is probably moving Christensen into guard or center, and Josh Nijman moving to right tackle or left tackle as the swing tackle. He has not played well his entire tenure with the Panthers. That Washington game was brutal. And so I think you want to keep your deck stacked. And so maybe that's why you have Carter kind of fill in while he did. But
the thing with Josh, and I not to just completely derail this entire podcast with offensive line talk, although that is kind of our bad. Josh is 6'7", 313, has played a ton and previously with the Packers. I don't really put too much water in his poor play last year. I mean, he played against Commanders. It was a blowout from the beginning. There was no.
I mean, I'm not trying to bury the guy. He is from the greatest state of all time, New Jersey.
Sure.
Yeah,
but
that's a joke, guys. I know. We're in Charlotte, and I know we're in North Carolina.
My thing, I guess I'll just have to get used to Brady Christensen not being the 6th man.
I think, and to the point of,
I know that there are ways. I know that he could be the 6th man if a tackle goes down. Which, by the way, Taylor Moton kind of came up gimpy on Monday. He looked completely fine on Tuesday, so that's good to know. Robert Hunt also came up gimpy on Monday. He looked completely fine on Tuesday, so that's fine. And I heard what you said at the top of the show, but just the way Brady played last year, I'm just surprised.
Well, and to your point on that, I think that Brady's playing more left because his natural position is right tackle. I think they have 2 right tackles backing up the offensive tackles, if that makes sense. Frankly, some would argue that they have 4 offensive right tackles playing.
And we're not going to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother podcast. But when we talk about numbers, I wanted to kind of get into this. So I have what's called an evolving, or what I call an evolving 53-man roster. So it starts in the preseason. I'll put in my 53 that I have in a document from like a training camp perspective. And so I'm just trying to gauge numbers because typically teams have numbers that they prefer to have. Like everybody's debating about should they keep 7 wide receivers? Well, you have to see how that impacts the rest of the roster, right? And I have given you access to it. I don't want to give away all the goods. That will be for another podcast down the road. But
that's what you call foreshadowing.
Yeah, but we're gonna have a very special edition next week. Like, not to toot our own horns here, but I'm thinking about it a lot.
I'm not tooting said horn. This
is basically all on Zach to pull off, but whatever.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, Zach, you're the best. So like, I think we all know that they're probably just going to keep two quarterbacks on the 53-man. Yeah, sorry, excuse me. It's everybody's preseason. I think they will keep 2 quarterbacks on the roster. I think that's evident. I have seen some of the angst that Andy Dalton caused from his preseason performance. I got to tell you, Andy Dalton, during the first 2 weeks of training camp, looked like he could, I mean, if there was an actual competition, could be in the conversation. He has given this second team defense some great looks. The last 2 days, he has just lofted balls in the end zone. He had a incredible throw to Jalen Coker that Coker came down with. Today, he threw about 45 yards in the air to TJ Luther for a touchdown. Like, he still has an arm. I don't think the preseason was like a fair...
Yeah, but I'm also empathetic to the fans because they literally can't see any training camp prep.
Right, exactly.
I mean, every little observation that I know you feel this way too, but every little observation that they have from FanFest or the preseason game, they're gonna like run with, and I totally get that. Well, through the interception, but like to your point as well, what a beautiful ball to Coker.
Oh my lord, yeah,
and he has been doing really well at these training camp practices.
Well, JC Horn today straight up said, like, going up against Andy, like with the scout team, is extremely valuable because it's like you're going up against a starting quarterback.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that this wide receiver room so deep too that they're like kind of a version of a starting wide receiving core as well, a young one but still a starting one in terms of talent. So that's kind of what he was saying as well. But
yeah, sure. So I have them keeping 3 running backs. Pour one out for.
I was going to say pour one out.
Yeah. I don't think this is a secret right now. I think Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, and Trevor Etienne are the guys. I think Etienne will end up being one of the 2 kickoff returners. I got to tell you who I've been really impressed by, with the Rock. Amani Bailey over the last 2 or 3 practices, and then even the preseason game, he had a couple of really nice runs. We'll talk about practice squad priority next week, but he's going to be on my list for sure. And then I think wide receiver, I said, in our 2 things can be true segment that I thought that they should only keep 6 wide receivers. I just think I'd rather have an extra offensive lineman or an extra defensive lineman, but doing all the math, feeling like in my inner Eric Eager, I just don't know how you justify not keeping 7 without a trade. I think I don't want to call it a failure if you can't trade one of these dudes, but I also think from the perspective of smart roster management, the 53-man roster isn't just about the talent of the field. It's about retaining talent. There's a reason why there's only 46 to 48 guys active on, and so love what I'm seeing out of Coker, love what I'm seeing out of Thielen, love what I'm seeing out of Leggett. McMillan is starting to really, really surge. Jimmy Horn with the ball in his hands, I think he's going to be the top punt returner. David Moore, they are so light on guys that can actually play special teams well that I just kind of think, that's one of those ones where you can be creative and you can cut him and he doesn't have to face the waivers and you can put him on the practice squad and you can bring him back after week 1. But that's getting into a lot of juggling there. And you also want guys to respect him and not think he's just a carry away guy. I think, look, even Bryson Tremaine, LJ Luther, Jacoby George, all the guys on the team at wide receiver are starting to make plays. And so if you have an avenue for a player for player trade after this Houston trip, maybe you make it. But
yeah, maybe you do. I like the I like where we're at from a numbers perspective as well. 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 7 wide receivers. We're not going to go through every single.
No, we are not.
But we've talked about those 3 positions before, so that's cool. But like we're going numbers, right?
Right, and so like when you have 12 in those first 3, that impacts how many offensive linemen you're going to keep, how many tight ends you're going to keep. So like, if you keep 7 wide receivers, there's absolutely no way you're keeping more than 3 tight ends.
That's gonna be tough.
And so you have to gauge whether Tommy Tremble's going to be on start the season on PUP, which is reasonable to think when he's out there in practice. And if he does, who's going to be the 3rd tight end? So James Mitchell probably seems like that guy, but we're seeing Dom Daff just turn into.
I know you really like Dominique Daphne.
I don't, but I really love.
Bro.
I mean, it's going to be James Mitchell. I just love the nickname. Anyway, so you get into this weird thing with like offensive linemen now, where it's like, do you keep 10 because you're only going to have 8 active on game day, but you want to make sure, like with Damian Lewis with the injury, you also know Taylor Moden's got a history. Robert Hunt got a little banged up in practice. By the way, Austin Corbett has had 3 major surgeries in 2 years. Like, you want to keep yourself engaged. Plus, Chandler Zavala has gotten injured.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
I think they're going to keep 10 on the initial roster, and they'll probably waive 1 after. But that also forces you when you have, 25 guys. So that's 25 guys on offense. Okay. If you move on to defense, I'll be really quick with this, and you tell me what you think. I have 6 on the D line, 5 at inside linebacker, because 2 of those guys are going to play mostly special teams, 5 at outside linebacker, 5 at cornerback, and then 4 at safety. And I just I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No. I just I'm at a point where maybe there are 3 jobs up for grab on defense that I can tangibly be yeah, I could argue this other guy.
And I think one of those is at the cornerback spot.
Sure.
I think Caleb Evans. I mean, again, I don't want to get too much into names, but if a Caleb Evans is going to be competing for a final cornerback spot with Corey Thornton, who has essentially been the training camp hero.
I hate when you say hero.
What?
Because what are they? What is he saving? What is he?
Okay, are we going to go into talk about DC Comics now? What did the Fantastic Four do, bro?
That's Marvel. Zach starts laughing, and I mean,
I don't care. Okay,
clearly
don't care.
Clearly, he doesn't care, Zach.
Okay, yes, they saved the world or whatever. This is or they saved
the universe. I think it's the universe. The world is not good enough stakes now. Anyway,
hero is someone who rises above their existence and does something that people didn't expect them to.
So he's what you'd call an overachiever.
Are overachievers heroes?
Not all of them.
Are some heroes not overachievers? Are some heroes underachievers? What are we doing here, man?
I mean, there are players in Panthers history that people don't like.
Okay,
and then
just real quick, and we'll move on. I'm sure Zach is gonna edit some of this out.
No, he shouldn't.
But bro, words are just supposed to make you feel things, and they're supposed to be
No, words matter. I'm not hating on it.
And when you hear hero, you're like, oh wow, this guy's special.
Corey Thornton's been very, very good.
Yes. Also, what if he does save the defensive backfield? What is that?
But then you're saving it. You're saving that hero moment for when it matters and there are stakes. I guess the stakes are now they don't have to trade for a corner.
Well, and also, guess what? He's playing for his NFL life.
He is.
So what if he's saving himself?
Whoa, that's deep. Whoa, bars.
Okay, back to my original point. So let's say for those last 2 spots, if you keep 5 for those last 2 spots, you got Corey Thornton and Shamar Bartholomew and Caleb Evans fighting for those things.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider keeping a Caleb Evans, and I know that Bam Martin Scott has played really well as an inside linebacker. If you keep him, if you drop him out of year 5,
right,
and bring inside linebacker to 4 and boost up the cornerback to 6, that's probably where I would go. Because John Radigan's a great special teams ace. So
but like
documented.
So let me ask you this, okay? And I think this is something that needs to be discussed when they are making cut downs. I've seen a Caleb Evans get waived by the Minnesota Vikings, and he gets claimed by the Panthers. How realistically, especially based on, like, he didn't play in the preseason game.
Will he have to face waivers?
Yes, he will.
Okay.
But, like, he also is in the final year of his rookie contract from those waivers, and so it's pretty expensive for a guy that has been, like, kind of, like...
Yeah.
So it's something that they need to consider. Like, for instance, like right now, I don't have LeBron Ray on my 6 for the defensive line. They've used him a ton.
Right.
I mean, Shy Tuttle, I don't have in my 6 right now. He's not going to be subject to waivers, but like he is a starting veteran who's played a lot of ball.
Did we ask about Cam Jackson today?
We did not.
Dang, that's probably on me. Yeah, Cam. Oh, well, but we didn't have Dave Canal, so we
right. Well, and Cam Jackson, like, I'm not worried about him. He was immediately working on, like, return to play. Like, when guys are on the side and they're working with those stuff, typically you take, like, some time off if there's something major. So
he's fine. Okay.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay. But as we get into that, this entire talent pool is going to be tested against the Houston Texans. So let's toss to our interview with Houston Chronicle beat reporter Jonathan Alexander for a great conversation on this joint practice. And we are joined by Houston Chronicle beat reporter, the great Jonathan Alexander. Jonathan, it is so awesome to see you. I can't wait to watch practice with you on whatever day it is that we're watching practice that fails. What is
Thursday?
Thursday. Thank you. I always count on you to keep me in line. But let's just get straight into it because, Alex has got some good questions for you. I'll do my best. So what's the latest on C.J. Stroud? He obviously had a great rookie year last year. It seemed like he kind of came back down to earth a little bit, but like, where are you at with him as he enters year 3?
Yeah, I think he's hoping to, have one of his better years. I think he was disappointed, obviously, with last year and how he performed. He thought he has high expectations for himself. I think a lot of outside observers were a little bit kind of hard. I think they kind of played his performance last year. He wasn't bad. Now, of course, you want to see a huge growth from year 1 to year 2, but he had some good moments. I can't remember how many touchdowns he had, but his touchdown to interception ratio wasn't terrible. He was rated number 39 in the NFL from top hundreds, but yeah, he had some work to do, and he's hoping to have improvement on this new offense with this new look offensive line.
CJ ended up having 20 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, which goes exactly with what in line with what you're saying. Jonathan, last week you spoke to or while we were previewing the Browns game, we spoke to Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com, and I asked her about what the Browns were going to do without Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is on the Texans roster now. Can you just give us a snapshot of this running back room now with a superstar like him?
Yeah, I mean, the Texans were dealing with a lot of injuries early in the summer, so they went out and got Nick Chubb. Joe Mixon has a foot injury that he's dealing with that he suffered off the field. You got Dameon Pierce, who was coming back from a quad injury, but he practiced for the first time in full today. They drafted a guy, Woody Marks. They got backup Dare Ogunbowale, who's their do-it-all guy, emergency kicker too. So, I mean, to be honest with you, it'll be interesting. This is one of the more interesting position battles in camp. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Do they keep 4 running backs? Do they try to sneak 5 in? I don't know what they're going to do, but I think it's possible. I wouldn't guarantee that Nick Chubb makes the roster. Obviously you brought him here for a reason, but if he's not great in the preseason, then he could be cut because they have a lot of faith in Dameon Pearson. To me, he'd be the only option that they cut because of what Dare does, and then the rookie having drafted and invested so much in Woody Marks. So it's interesting.
That's fascinating.
I mean, when there's a defensive head coach, you hope that the defense is going to be a marvel for the team, and that's certainly what the Texans seem to have been the last 2 years. I know they've had some issues at safety, with injuries to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and then Jimmy Ward's dealing with some, I guess, some off the field stuff. What exactly does their defense look like now, and who are the biggest threats in that secondary?
Yeah, I mean, the C.J. Gardner-Johnson injury was really tough for them. Even though he'll come back at some point in the season, but they were thinking that they were building, the best secondary in the league. You got Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter, two shutdown corners on both outside. Kalen Bullock is a ball hawk, interception guy. He struggled a little bit in the running game, but you also add Jalen Petrie in the nickel, who's one of the best hitters and one of the best blitzers. Struggles a little bit in coverage, I'd say, but still one of the best hitters, one of the best blitzers on the team. So they're going to be really strong there in the secondary, even without C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And then their defensive line is one of the best in the league, too. Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter on the outside, two of the best edge rushers in the league. And Will Anderson Jr. is rising. It's crazy to even think about that. But and their defensive tackles, they've built a deeper defensive tackle room, which is solid as well. But just overall, secondary and defensive line is their strongest traits.
Well, that's a lot of positivity coming from kind of back to defense. I'm going to be boring. I'm going to stay on the offensive side. I see in your wide receiver group, or in the Texans wide receiver group, Bryce Young, shout out Raleigh, Nico Collins.
I found that out today, and I chatted with him about that today. I did not know. I feel bad for not knowing, but I was just having a good time chatting with him about Raleigh.
So you rallied around the fact that he's from Raleigh?
There's not many North Carolina guys in the Texas locker room, and I need to connect with guys somehow. But when I found that out, I was so excited.
Oh, that's so funny, Jonathan, because I feel like I couldn't shut up about him when we were working together in the Raleigh in the News and Observer newsroom. I feel like I couldn't shut up about him.
He probably wasn't listening to you.
He probably wasn't. But
maybe I just didn't put two and two together.
He was unguardable at Leesville High School in Raleigh, and Leesville wasn't in the same conference as Panther Creek High School. Shout out Panther Creek High School. That's where I went to high school. But
he bald.
Yeah, that's right. I tried to. And he was just amazing, particularly on the punt return. He was and people would take pictures with him. It was just so fun. So anyway, Braxton Berrios, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, John Mechie. These are names that I think a lot of casual football fans are aware of. Certainly fantasy football guys are aware of. Are those going to be your main, the Texans' main four when we're talking about this wide receiver room, or how do you think that's going to shake out?
No, their main four are Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, two rookies they got, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. So those are four main guys who are a lock. After that, I think it's an open competition. Now, it'll depend on whether they keep 6 or 7 wide receivers. I think it's possible, just given how Braxton Berrios has played this training camp, because he didn't participate in the spring, so nobody knew what he could do coming off that ACL injury. But just given how he's played in the summer, I think there's a good chance that they'll keep 7 wide receivers because he can do multiple things. And D'Amico loves guys who can play special teams and play a position. So those 4, and then it's between Berrios, Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson, and Justin Watson, who they added from the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's so far it's been a really interesting competition, and I think all of them are kind of neck and neck. But I can see a few guys pulling away from Justin Watson.
Sounds like they got a similar wide receiver situation to the Panthers, so it seems like both secondaries are going to need a lot of work there. I like to focus on a lot of front office stuff, so I'm going to ask you a question that might be a little bit kind of polarizing to Panthers fans. Obviously, we saw the second round negotiations kind of got all out of whack when the Texans and the Browns fully guaranteed the contracts of Carson Swissinger, 33, and then Jaden Higgins at 34. What were you able to glean about why they guaranteed Higgins' contract?
Yeah, I mean, every year, more and more players get their contracts guaranteed. It was almost a formality. But it gets deeper and deeper every year. I don't know where it was last year, but there were a certain amount of first-round players who got their guaranteed contracts. So when this year came, Nick Caserio mentioned that he didn't want to be stuck, in this long game. So he just figured that he'd just go ahead and guarantee Jaden Higgins full contract to get that out of the way. Now, that caused a lot of trouble with the rest of the draft picks because more and more people wanted guaranteed deals, and he was the first second-round pick to have a guaranteed deal. But it was inevitably going to happen, whether that was this year or next year.
For sure. Alex, what else you got?
I'm just gonna end with, because we can't go an episode without mentioning Bryce Young and
Boom.
and Jonathan. Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are inextricably linked, and I imagine they'll be that way throughout the year. And on top of the fact that you covered the Panthers so well for our newspaper, Stroud Observer, I'm sure you keep an eye on Bryce Young as well.
Yeah.
What is the external view of Bryce Young heading into his year 3? Mike and I are in the trenches, seeing every single throw and documenting it. But from an outside perspective, what do you think the perception is of Bryce?
I mean, I think the league respects Bryce. I mean, especially the Texans. I mean, CJ is obviously a close friend with Bryce. Will Anderson was close with Bryce. Henry To'oTo'o was close with Bryce. John Mechie was best friends with Bryce. And, I talk to them in the locker room all the time, and they love that guy. And they were trying to tell me the whole time that he was going to turn things around, and he did. He looked like a totally different quarterback. So I think maybe from outside perspective and hearing from people, they just didn't feel like the Panthers put the necessary tools around him in his first season, gave him the tools in his second season, and it was all about confidence. I think that's the outside perspective, but they respect the heck out of him. They think he's one of the better quarterbacks, or is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in this league for a long time.
Well, good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Panthers fans will be excited to hear that. Well, John, tell us where everybody can find your work and where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, y'all can find my work at HoustonChronicle.com. To make it easier, you do /sports/Texans. And you can find me on social media at John M. Alexander. That's JONM Alexander on X. And then on YouTube, it's the same. And not YouTube. Instagram is the same, but an underscore at the end.
We like underscores here at the Observer, especially this beat writer.
And I would recommend. I'm a subscriber to the Houston Chronicle, pretty much for Jonathan. But I also get so many of y'all's newsletters, and I've learned so much about your governor down there, which is so cool.
That's a whole nother podcast.
But anyway, Jonathan, you do great work, and talk to you soon. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, that was informative, as they always are. As we made mention, the Observer will be in Houston to cover these practices, the preseason game. Make sure that you check that out. Also, make sure that you check out Jonathan's terrific work at the Houston Chronicle. It's been cool to kind of get to know Jonathan over the years. When I got here, we talked about the job, and we've become very close friends. I know he's very close with you as well.
Oh yeah, no, Jonathan is a really good mentor, a really big mentor of mine. I was actually interning at the Raleigh News and Observer while he was covering UNC basketball over at the Raleigh News and Observer. And then he came over to cover the Panthers right after that. And now he's a really big fish in the biggest pond there is in NFL reporting. So doing a great job.
Yeah, he's terrific. We were talking, you and I obviously talk all the time, but we were kind of talking earlier about roster battles. Mm-hmm. So I want to do something called roster bets, and I want to play some early roster bets. Now, these can't be guys that are going to make the roster or who are going to win jobs or whatever. I think outside the kicker competition, there's nothing super up in the air as far as the primary positions. But like you said, you brought up a Caleb Evans, you brought up Shamar Bartholomew, guys that are on the roster. So of the guys that maybe are in 45 to 55 range, right? I want you to state your claim as to if they will make the roster or not.
Tell me. All right, let's do this.
All right. And I feel weird because earlier you brought up James Mitchell, so I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to go with Jaden Crumedy as my first guy.
Ooh.
Okay, so
What a great one.
So the 6th-round pick from last year, I thought he flashed a little bit last year. Nobody's really talked about him. He's kind of like the guy from that draft class last year that's kind of gone on like headlined, so to speak. I really like what he's doing from a run game perspective. I think he complements Derek Brown very, very well, which is, I think, the reason why they brought him in the first place. Like, I think when you look on the roster, like, A'Shawn Robinson's complemented well by Deshaun Ward. Bobby Brown's complemented really well by Cam Jackson. I think Crumedy is like the complement to Derek Brown behind him.
I agree.
So who's your first guy?
I think that's a really good choice. Jaden Crumedy, 6'4", 309, played in like 5 different defensive schemes in college, something like that, something crazy. Yeah, no. I think that's a really good one. Ooh, okay, I'm gonna do a cop out. Well, I actually want to get your opinion on this, but I'm gonna say that Ja'Tyre Carter is gonna make this.
No, I think that's good. I think that's a really good one, especially because he's part of the discussion. So tell me why.
Well, so you mentioned that you mentioned earlier in the show that he had a really good rest of the game after the.
Well, I don't know. I'd say really, he was fine.
Well, you relayed that Dave Canal
Yes.
said that he had a really good rest of the game after getting up a sack against the Browns, who weren't playing all their ones preseason game. But I don't know, man. We've already shown we've already seen this training camp, how valuable offensive line depth is, how hard the Panthers worked to get it last year, how much money they spent to get it, and how it's already kind of paying off. You got Damian Lewis, who is having to be on the sideline with the shoulder thing. You got, Robert Hunt going down yesterday, Kaye Taylor-Moton going down yesterday and kind of dealing with some chronic knee pain, as the observers previously reported. It's just invaluable to have like that number of offensive linemen, and if he's number 10, he's number 10, and so that's kind of why I'm rolling with him. It's less of my belief in Carter being a diamond in the rough and more of just like, hey, he is serviceable and he's part of a group that needs as much depth as possible. So that's why I'm rolling with him.
Yeah, I think there's logic in that, especially when you have 2 guards who are really important that are injured, right? So, like, even if you're starting Cade Mays, you're going to need a backup for him. And I think Brady Christensen is clearly, they prefer him at tackle than guard or center. So
we're really doing this episode for the sickos, man.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Bryce.
No, we're talking about, look, Bryce can take the week off. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's actually something good. When you're not talking about the starting quarterback, it means he's doing his job.
Good point.
And I think he had a tremendous practice on Monday. I know you gave me some pushback on like it being his best practice of the summer. I thought it was easily his best practice of the summer. He was accurate. He protected the ball, all that sort of stuff. He's going to protect the ball even better when he doesn't have to go up against Thomas Incoom.
Oh, wow.
In practice.
Wow.
Let me tell you something. I rewatched this game. Take defense aside. Forget about the defense, because he's been terrific in practice on defense. He had an unreal special teams outing against the Browns, and I'm expecting more of the same. I just don't understand, like, outside of draft pick pedigree, why you would keep DJ Johnson over Thomas Incoom. Incoom's a better pass rusher in practice. It's not close. Special teams wise, it's like he's on another planet. He's on Krypton. Because you want to talk about Superman all the time.
Superman, the podcasters might not like this, but Superman is my favorite superhero. Is that like
you're a Boy Scout? That makes sense.
Is that a hot take?
I mean, he's the most fitting to your personality type. Yes. I'm more brooding, so I guess that's the point. I'm a Nightwing guy personally. And Green Arrow. I like Green Arrow a lot. But. Anyway,
Thomas Incoom is great.
Yeah. Bottom line, I think Incoom has outperformed DJ Johnson in every which way. I just don't like. There were plays from Johnson during the preseason game. I sent you one where I was there on the reverse. If you rewatch the reverse for the touchdown, he
drowning.
He wasn't even drowning. It was like he was Jack at the bottom of the ocean in Titanic. It was really like, I'm not trying to just like nail the guy, but like, what was he doing? It's like he just stood there and watched him go around the corner. This is supposed to be a really good run defender. I think they've put in a lot into this guy, and he wasn't a draft pick of this regime. I know Evero was here when he got drafted and was pro that pick, but like,
that's what I was gonna say. This is part of Evero's legacy.
Sure. Well, sometimes, just like the Born Legacy movie, you only get one, You don't need to have, a bunch of iterations. And I think like if this is truly a competition, other people can see this. Yeah. Remember, other players on the team know who can ball and who can't. I promise you.
I mean, it goes back to the anecdote that Brant Tillis had when he was in Kansas City, and it would be so easy to just cut Turp Wharton in 2020 when he was an undrafted rookie from a Division II college in Missouri. It would have been so easy to cut him, right? Because then he would have cleared waivers easily. No one knew this guy. They didn't have any joint practices, didn't have a preseason. It would have been so easy to cut him and bring him back on the practice squad and let him continue to build from there. And Brant essentially said, no, he's got to make the 53-man roster if we're going to have any sort of sense of credibility with this team.
Right. And the thing, too, is this is year 2. I forgot who said it earlier in training camp, but somebody said it was like going from a team to a program. And when you go from a team to a program, the program standards have to be much higher than just the team, right? Like, you're in it to win it. You've built some sort of ceiling. Like, Dan Morgan and Dave Canales do not benefit from storing a guy that they didn't even draft as at their current spots. So to me, I mean, I think Thomas Incoon, he's not just a hustle player. He's one of the only legit special teams players on this team that I could say, hey, look at this guy. This guy brings some plus on special teams. And so while I think he has stuff to work on as a run defender, I think his pass rush is pretty nice. Like, let's say Uman Milan had a missed time or Wadham had a missed time, and Coom could be that weak side pass rusher in the rotation.
One more really quick one.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay, which one do you want? Do you want me to make a declaration on kicker, or do you want me to say something about
No, let's hold off on kicker
for next week. Okay. I'm just going to be straight up simple. Nick Scott. Oh,
okay.
That's not what I was expecting. I was expecting you to have like a
Nick Scott should make this team. He's a personal protector on punt. I just don't think he should be starting on defense.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, but he has this leadership quality that's so palpable on this team. Like one example that came to me actually on Tuesday. It's a silly thing. The Panthers are hosting this. It's not silly, but it's goofy. It's like a fun,
like a deep cut. Yeah.
The Panthers are hosting this Pop Warner 11 under team.
Oh yeah, he was great,
and he is just the kids kind of gravitate to him, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what I was watching was after every play, players went up to Nick Scott and been like, "Yo, did you see that?" Even Bryce was on the other side of the offense and walked over to Nick. He just like everyone likes him.
He's an extremely likable guy,
and he's a great leader. And if he's going to be the fourth safety, and I personally think Damani Richardson deserves reps over him. You probably think that Lathan Ransom deserves reps over Damani, which means that, Lathan also is above Nick Scott in the depth chart. Whatever the case may be, he's an incredibly important presence in the line.
Oh, I think
I'm sure you agree.
No, I 100% agree. And I think people have been very tough on him from his defensive play, which I understand. They keep trotting him out there because he's familiar with the system. But let me tell you something. It doesn't matter how great of a communicator you are. Xavier Woods was a great communicator and actually a much better player than Nick Scott was on defense. And they still couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. At some point, talent has to win out, and those guys need to learn. The real way that Nick Scott could be an asset to this team is if he is the defensive version of David Moore. He's showing them how the right way to do things. But David Moore's not starting. David Moore has his place in the offense. He's moving in and out. Safety's a little bit different of a position. There's a lot of communication. I think Nick Scott is a valuable member of this team, but he is more valuable to them as a mentor and a special team standout than he is as a starting player in the NFL. I think that was proven last year when he did fill-in duty and the defense just cratered. I mean, the defense was bad at safety the entire year, and I'm not putting that on him, but I think from like the sake of this lineup, I understand you want a guy who knows how to do it, but let Lathan Ransom take his lumps. Let, some people gave, eventually these young guys got to play.
Yeah.
And they went out of their way and they drafted Lathan Ransom. They drafted Dick Scorton. They drafted Princely Umamila, and they signed Corey Thornton. Like, it's tough. And so I think, first off, I think Lathan Ransom's been one of the best defensive players in camp.
He's been really good.
I think Damani Richardson proved last year that he is a very capable NFL defensive player at safety. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But here, why don't you send us off as we get back in? Again, thanks to Jonathan Alexander for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, as always, for listening to our pontifications on all things Panthers with Mike Kaye and myself and our wonderful producer, Zach Dennis. Please subscribe and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts by searching Processing Blue. And if you watch us on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to get notified whenever new episodes drop. And finally, please be sure to stick to charlotteobserver.com for all your Panthers needs. Mike, stay humble, stay creative, and keep processing.
That's a wrap.